Cam Akers has been traded. Nick Chubb is done for the season, and the running back position is just a disaster right now. We're talking about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Dynasty.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanMC23. Joining me, as always, is former NFL scout Matt Williamson. Find Matt on Twitter at WilliamsonNFL. Matt, I know you've had a crazy week. The Steelers Monday Night Football schedule kind of throws things off in your world. Unfortunately, we're gonna start there, going back to Monday night because, of course, it was another rough one. 2 weeks in a row now, we had serious, significant injuries. Honestly, unfortunately, in both cases, I think career-threatening injuries to key players. This time, it was Nick Chubb. Of course, the Browns playing your Steelers on Monday night, and this is one of those we knew immediately. It was very bad, and one of those injuries where you kind of forget about fantasy football for a little while, just really feel for the player because his life changed with that hit.
No doubt. I mean, I don't want to say he's an all-time great, but he's had an all-time great start to his career.
Yep, absolutely.
He's a fantastic football player. By all accounts, he's a great human being. I don't know if this is good or bad, but he almost had the exact same injury at Georgia on the exact same knee, and he came back to be awesome. So, he's been down this road. I don't know if that's better or worse, but, I mean, it's terrible. It's bad for the Browns. I don't think the Browns are particularly well adept to make up for it, and they started throwing the ball a ton as soon as Chubb went out. But they're fortunate that Kareem Hunt's still out there. There's a familiarity there, and I think Jerome Ford's a fine number 2, but it's going to change their season and his career without question.
Yeah, we can talk again. You hate to even bring fantasy football into it because it is such a serious injury, but that's why we're here. So
it's our job. Right.
Yeah, we're going to transition there for the fantasy football impact. I mean, as far as Nick Chubb, his value is essentially shot. He's outside of the top 100 in my dynasty rankings as of now. Jerome Ford, his replacement, is currently not far behind him. I think I have Nick Chubb around 105. I have Jerome Ford around 110, 115. So that's kind of where I see, unfortunately, the value on Nick Chubb. It sounds like you are looking at Kareem Hunt as the starter in this situation. I think if so, we disagree there.
I don't.
Oh, okay. I think Jerome Ford so impressive in relief of Chubb on Monday night. And, I think back to the preseason, Ford had the hamstring injury, and of course Chubb was sitting out, and the running backs they were rolling out in those preseason games were terrible. And, everybody was saying, what are they doing? They got to bring somebody in, bring Kareem Hunt back, sign Leonard Fournette, trade for somebody, do something because, unfortunately, if something does happen to Nick Chubb, there's not going to have anything left. And what the Browns seemingly knew at that point was, one, Jerome Ford was not hurt as badly as maybe everyone thought. But even more importantly, they had a gem in Jerome Ford. I think he's their starter. I think he's a fantasy starter moving forward. And Kareem Hunt is honestly just an insurance policy. I mean, if Kareem Hunt's out there in my dynasty league, I'm picking him up, but I don't think this is going to be a player we can use in our lineups.
So you think it's going to be a 1-2 situation, not a 60-40 situation?
I think Jerome Ford will essentially have Nick Chubb's role from last year.
Okay. Yeah.
And Kareem Hunt will have his same role from last year, which
it might take a week or two. I mean, he hasn't played in a
was
while.
disappointing, honestly.
Yeah, good point. Good point. They did give him decent money though, which I was a little shocked. I think he made like $4 million.
Up to $4 million.
Right? Okay. I didn't see that part.
We'll see what the incentives are like, and he's got to rush for 1,000 yards to more than $1 million to be something. Just spitballing there, but we'll see what that looks like. I mean, Kareem Hunt talked about him on this show before. He was still available for a reason, right?
True.
There's plenty of teams around the league who are in desperate need or have been in desperate need of running back help and didn't sign Kareem Hunt. We're going to talk about one of those in just a moment. So yeah, I've basically given up on Kareem Hunt. Honestly, it took this serious of a situation for him to even get a job again. I love Jerome Ford going forward, though. Really impressed by him. And we had our waiver show early yesterday, and of course didn't talk about that situation. As we mentioned, that was recorded prior to the Monday Night Football doubleheader. Jerome Ford, if he's out there, of course it goes without saying. If you've got late waivers that are running, he's the top option. Let's move over, Matt, to one of those other running back desperate teams, because the Minnesota Vikings made a move here on Wednesday, trading for Cam Akers. We had talked about Akers and Kyron Williams, the whole situation there. It was obvious and expected that Akers would be gone off that roster in some form or fashion, or traded or outright released. And the Rams got a taker in Minnesota, swap a late 2026 draft picks, I believe, 6th rounder for a 7th rounder. So that shows you where Akers' value is. That's no surprise. What are we doing here with the Vikings and Cam Akers? Obviously, Alexander Mattison has been a huge disappointment for that team. How are you viewing these two guys compared to one another at this point?
Yeah, I mean, so the Vikings are 0-2 after winning 13 games last year. You can take that however you want. But more importantly, they're by far the most pass-heavy team in the league. Like, their running game has been so bad that they're throwing the ball at like 80% of the time. I mean, they've just basically given up on it, which I assume this is a remedy for that. Let's at least infuse somebody in there. I was kind of holding Ty Chandler, hoping he would get this opportunity. I liked what he showed in preseason, and I think this hurts him dramatically. But Akers obviously isn't worth a whole heck of a lot if you're swapping late round picks. And I think they're just trying to kickstart a running game. I assume Madison's still the one, but frankly, he was never for me. I think that he was always a little overrated and is more of a Dalvin Cook in his prime backup, not a number one. And I don't see a number one on this team.
I agree. I'm not sure which of these backs, Madison or Cam Akers, I'm not sure which I expect to lead the way, but I don't think this is going to be the fix that the Vikings need. I mean, Akers has struggled on the field. He's obviously struggled off the field with whatever the conflict was there with the Rams. And, hopefully you always root for the players in most situations, at least. So hopefully whatever that was, it was maybe it was just a personal issue between the coaching staff and it was maybe a fresh start is what he needed, but I'm not investing in him really in any way. I think if you were hoping Madison turned it around, obviously those concerns are valid, and it's not looking good for him.
Do you agree, though, if you've been stuck with Akers, dump him now that there's a little news? If somebody will give you anything for him, just be gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
I would easily take a second for him. I think you can get a second in most leagues, in many formats, you can get a second rookie pick, and I would definitely take that for him. Even if you have to toss in. Yeah, I was going to say, even if you have to toss in a third, so Akers and a third for a second, that's a deal I would gladly do. But just like these NFL teams are desperate for running back production, certainly dynasty managers are as well, because it's been a rough start for the position as a whole. We're going to talk about that and a few other specific situations around the league. Continue that right after this.
So I have told you a lot about eBay Motors. They've teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football, their host, Vinny Iyer, to bring you some of the best fantasy picks every week, and they're going to do this all season long. So whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So this week, Vinny picked out Ravens rookie wide receiver Zay Flowers, and Ryan and I did a podcast all about Zay Flowers, I think about a week ago, and we're both big fans. He's tremendous. He had a great debut in week 1 and was okay in the second week, but Flowers will go full bloom while cruising into a big game on a weak Colts secondary at home in week 3. He schemed up open well, and Baltimore's new look passing game continues to find more life for Lamar Jackson. So it kind of looks like the Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews show for the Ravens. So with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, roof racks, LED headlights, everything you have, baby needs, car seats. eBay Motors has it all. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply.
Matt, the Akers news, the Nick Chubb news, obviously the big stories of the week from the running back position, but we've got a few other noteworthy situations here. Saquon Barkley is going to miss Thursday night's game. Looks like Matt Breida will be next up for the Giants, but of course they're playing the San Francisco 49ers. You threw some cold water on the Breida hype train that I was starting on yesterday's show, and I appreciate that. Needed that redirection. I mean, this is a tough situation. The coaching staff was suggesting Barkley, might play or be a game time decision. The reality, when you look at the injury and listen to the medical experts out there, looks like it's going to be more of a 3-week injury possibly. So Barkley's going to miss some time. Jamal Williams has been the starter for the Saints these first couple of weeks. He's now out with a hamstring injury and sounds like he's going to miss multiple weeks as well. Of course, the Saints are in a tough spot in week 3. That leaves them with Tony Jones, who took over for Williams, along with Kendre Miller, the rookie, who is expected to make his debut in week 3. And then finally, week 4, the Saints will get Alvin Kamara back from his suspension. I'm excited to see Kendre Miller hopefully get a lot of playing time in week 3, Matt.
That to me is the takeaway from these two situations. Is it's just a golden opportunity for a day 2 rookie. Tony Jones to me, I think, is not maybe an NFL player. I'm not sure that the guys behind Barkley are worth even getting invested in. But Miller, to me, is very exciting. Hopefully, the Kamara return, Williams return, whenever that happens, doesn't throw water on a good thing. But we always talk about running backs. They're short-term assets, so ride them while you can. I would start them this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as far as Williams coming back, I mean, he had bad these first couple games anyway, honestly, at least from what I had seen. So if Miller lives up to expectations, and both of us certainly like him, this really feels like a Kamara, Kendre Miller backfield for the rest of the season if both of those can stay healthy. Last one to look at here is the LA Chargers. Austin Eckler had that ankle injury in week 1. Honestly, didn't seem that serious at the time. Ultimately, he misses the week 2 game. Joshua Kelly fills in against that tough Titans defense. He didn't fare so well. Has a little bit of an easier matchup this week. Eckler's still not back at practice, and the Chargers coaching staff saying there is no timeline for Eckler to return. So again, we're talking about certainly a multiple week injury and maybe maybe longer than that, maybe a month out or more for Austin Eckler. So, I mean, what are we doing here? Do you feel safe about Joshua Kelly as a fantasy starter after last week's dud?
Well, I think last week's dud, we'll learn sooner than later that no one really runs on the Titans. I think that's something that's going to be a trend here that becomes very evident. So let's not hold it against Kelly. But on the flip side, week 1 against the Dolphins, I thought Vic Fangio just played light box after light box, begging you to run. So the truth is probably somewhere in between. I think it's a good offense with a good line. So I think he's an RB2 while Eckler's out. And I don't expect Eckler to come back in a while.
Yeah, it's looking that way. This hurts. I mean, of course, we're already without Jonathan Taylor, now without Austin Eckler, and Barkley's out for a period of time. Nick Chubb, the name we already mentioned. This is rough, Matt. This is a rough situation for the running back position. And really the state of the running back position overall is in a bad spot. It kind of felt like over the past year or so, it was trending this way. We've talked about it on here. Those 2017 running backs that really saved the day, saved the position from a dynasty standpoint, Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, all those guys. Majority of those really outside of McCaffrey have lost value and lost significant value. And now you look around the league at the starting running backs, and we're talking about Jerome Ford and Kyron Williams and Matt Breida, Tony Jones, Josh Kelly, Zach Moss. Like these are players that are going to be starting for NFL teams, and they're going to be in fantasy lineups as well. I think we just have to look at the running back position as a whole right now and figure out what's the game plan here. Are we going to back off even more than we already had? We'd already been building teams around wide receivers, and can we swing it even further now?
I was kind of thinking the opposite in that,
okay,
maybe we didn't know it at the time, but in 2022, we got pretty fortunate with running back injuries. And we know that's the exception to the rule. And now we're getting hit hard. And this is more of the norm than last year. So I was thinking the opposite in these deep leagues, 24, 25 man rosters, maybe keep an extra young back or two. And a strategy I used in both my redraft leagues was rounds like 10 through 14. I took all the Tajay Spears and Kendre Millers I could get, and that might pay off, Well,
I think the volume at the position is the way to go, right? As many bodies as you can. But when you're thinking about team building, or let's fast forward to January, March, right? Yeah. Are you investing an early pick into a running back or the Eckler injury? Are these things going to haunt dynasty managers for a while and potentially change the way we team build next offseason even?
Yes, I think the answer to that's yes. I mean, when in doubt, take the receiver, maybe even take the tight end or quarter, but just don't take the running back if you're on the fence. I think that's very true, and we're getting slapped in the face with that right now.
Yeah. I do want to look back at some running back ADP just to really see how bad it's been, and maybe it's not so bad. We'll look at the running back ADP from the off season and where these running backs are now. We'll do that next.
So, folks, I've been cleaning up on Prize Picks, and just need to tell you guys, Prize Picks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in all of North America. Their easiest and most exciting way to play DFS, even if it's just you against the numbers. That's my favorite part. So instead of battling 1,000 other players or whatever, you just pick more or you pick less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And frankly, I've been doing very, very well on it. You can pick the ones you want to do. You can only do 2 if you want. You go up to 6. It really doesn't make a difference. It's testing my skills on Prize Picks this football season has been a really exciting way just to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can actually turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. There's quick withdrawals. They have easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types, or make Prize Picks the #1 daily sports app. So you can pick whoever you want really, and just do over under. Like I've been cleaning up on Justin Jefferson lately and Lamar Jackson, and a couple of these guys have done really well lately. Prize Picks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. So here's what you do. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. So again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL, and then they match your deposit up to $100. So how do you not do that? So again, check that out. And I think you're going to love it. I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow, Matt and I will be back. We'll be taking a look at our recently updated rookie rankings, and they have changed quite a bit over these past couple of weeks. So listen in for that episode. You'll see how we are ranking the 2023 rookie class right now. All right, Matt, let's look back at that ADP. This is DLF Dynasty ADP from May of 2023. And I think I've said it on here before. The May ADP is kind of my go-to. If I'm looking at off-season ADP, I'm looking at May. We've got the rookies in, and we know the rookie landing spots. Free agency is obviously over. And to me, May is kind of the prime startup draft season. Of course, you're going to have them all throughout the offseason. You're going to have those startup drafts, but May is the time, I think, when they really kick into high gear. So when I look back at offseason ADP, I'm typically focused on May. That's what I've done here. I've the top 24 running backs here, Matt, and it certainly feels doom and gloom when you have the kind of conversations that we just had about the players that are hurt and traded and struggling. I got to tell you, as I looked at these top 24 backs, it wasn't as bad as I thought. So let's go through them. We've got RB1, Bijan Robinson. Obviously feel very good about that. If there was any hesitation that he's the dynasty RB1, there was probably still a few holding out because he hadn't played a snap, hadn't been on the field yet, and all those things. Well, that's a thing of the past. He's been a top 12 running back in each of the first two games, one of only 4 running backs to do that. So Bijan Robinson locked in at RB1. Jonathan Taylor was the RB2. Of course, injured, has not played a game yet. Will miss at least 2 more games. And then Taylor and the Colts kind of gotta work out the personal issues and the contract issues on top of the injury concerns he has. So Taylor's
these injuries open a door for a trade that didn't exist 2 weeks ago.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Yeah. But if you drafted Jonathan Taylor as the RB2 overall back in May, you're not feeling so good right now. Next couple, you are feeling good. Christian McCaffrey was the RB3. Breece Hall was the RB4. I would say.
Are you feeling good about Breece Hall?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, 2 games in, of course, he had the big debut with the 2 long runs. Really struggled last week, but I think everybody's going to struggle against that Dallas defense, Matt.
No doubt.
That's crazy. And still on a pitch count. So I'm not worried about Breece Hall. I'm actually encouraged by what I've seen so far.
I'm just worried the Jets offense is broken this year, but we'll see.
Yeah, that is true. They got to find a quarterback. Saquon Barkley, the RB5. I mean,
that's okay.
You hate to say you saw it coming, but he's had injury concerns almost every season he's been in the league. Now he's got injury concerns again. He's going to miss at least 1 game and maybe multiple games, likely multiple games. Some young guys coming up here, 6, 7, and 8. Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne. Like all 3 of these guys have actually gained value, and maybe that's just a result of some of the other names mentioned pulling off. But even with Gibbs' usage the first couple of weeks, I'm still valuing him very highly. Actually, still I believe he's still my RB2 in my rankings. Walker and Etienne have both been solid as well. RB9, Austin Eckler. Again, already had that conversation about him. He's losing value. 10 and 11 here, Matt. Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris.
Similar.
It's bad. It's bad for Najee Harris right now.
It's bad for both. I mean, I'm previewing Raiders Steelers as we speak, and Josh Jacobs ran for -2 yards last week, and both these guys are getting hit behind the line of scrimmage every time they touch the ball. And same with Jaylen Warren. I mean, it's just nothing is going well for either one of these running games right now at all.
No, both these guys certainly losing value.
Yeah,
I
like
Harris,
the next two though.
Probably more so. RB12 at the time was Tony Pollard. You look at him and think he's got to be he's certainly gained value. Maybe he's a top 6, 7 dynasty running back at this point. Would you rather have Pollard or Saquon Barkley moving forward? I believe both players are 26 years old.
Pollard.
Yeah, Pollard for me as well.
Yeah.
We got a rough string here. Ramondre Stevenson, not a great start to his season, and then it gets worse here. RB14, Nick Chubb. RB15, JK Dobbins. When you talk about guys not only getting hurt, but getting hurt so seriously that their career and next season are in doubt, that's actually what we're dealing with for both of these guys. RB16, 17, Javonte Williams and Derrick Henry, another couple of slow starters here for these guys. And both of them obviously have big time upside, but we're not seeing it yet.
No, I'm feeling a little better about Javonte than I did 3 months ago, though. I mean, I was really down on him.
Yeah, I was as well. I think we kind of agreed there. And
I dumped him.
It's better.
I had him. Yeah.
Rashad White, DeAndre Swift, Dameon Pierce round out the top 20. White had a nice game in week 2. DeAndre Swift had the game of his career in week 2, and Dameon Pierce has just been bad. A couple of those 2017 guys coming up, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, both trending down for different reasons. Another 2017 guy rounds out the list. That's Dalvin Cook at RB24, and sandwiched in there is Cam Akers at RB23, who obviously lost a ton of value. Maybe, as we said earlier, he can recoup some of that, but there was more bad than good here, Matt. What are you doing in next year's startups? Are you just pushing that running back position all the way down? I mean, are you it might be round 5, 6, 7 before I take a running back.
That's what I was thinking. And give me the Roschon Johnsons and Kendre Millers, kind of like we talked about, and lots of them. Yeah, I mean, I think Mixon and Cook look shot. I don't think either one's a particularly good football player right now. And boy, like a third of these are injured, and some of them are Chubb Dobbins injured, like not coming back anytime, and not like Aaron Jones or Barkley,
Right. Obviously, a rough start for the running back position. I don't think it's going to get much better, but we can hold out hope in the top of that list because we had some positives there. Obviously, Bijan Robinson, McCaffrey continues just to be a freak of nature. Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, some young running backs that we like a lot. They've shown flashes early in this season. Those are the guys we want to invest in. Just a rough spot right now.
It really is, but everybody's dealing with it. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple that have.
Very true.
It's a worldwide problem here in the dynasty community, the fantasy community.
That is going to do it for today's show. Please make sure you download and subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Remember to follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. Follow Matt at Williamson NFL. And I'm Ryan, MC23. We'll be back next time with more Locked On Dynasty.